This is a place where you can go back in time, where you can start a trip in the 21st century and set out to encounter bush tribes still living the way they did hundreds of years ago. In 1995, while sailing the South Pacific, I stopped in Espiritu Santo and walked into the highlands. 3 days later, I became the first Westerner to reach the tribe of Mareki. 7 years later, I'm coming back. I want to capture a unique culture that will disappear someday soon. My journey starts with a cattle rancher who drives me to the edge of the interior. The roads and river crossings in Espiritu Santo are brutal. Only a four-wheel drive vehicle will make it through. I spend the first night in Fafalia village. The next morning I meet my English-speaking bush guide, Jeffrey. We have 2 difficult days of hiking ahead of us. Walking across the steep mountains requires perseverance. The jungle foliage is dense, full of snakes and leeches. It rains often, and that makes everything muddy. Sometimes the bush trails disappear. The biggest obstacles are the deep rivers. I'm in constant fear of dropping my pack and camera equipment into the water. Hiking through this terrain, I realize why the bush tribes are still so isolated. On the way, we go through villages where people live and dress traditionally, upholding the ancient Vanuatu lifestyle called custom. Agbol, a village wise man, and Putam, a medicine man, join our party. When we get close to our destination, Putam sounds a conch shell so the Mareki tribe know we're coming. When we arrive, the villagers line up and I shake everyone's hand. The High Chief Musura remembers me well and invites me to stay in Mareki for as long as I like.
So you are here? There? And you?
As a gift, I give him and the village the first ever photo of them that I took in 1995. The people are ecstatic and curious. They stare at themselves for hours. For the next week, I live in Mareki, learning the people's ways and gathering information about them. My first concern is picking up the local dialect, Kia. I single out one of the teenagers, Vera, and start recording the language in my notebook.
Usa for rain.
During the day, I go to the communal garden with the villagers. The root taro is the staple diet of bushland. It's bland though, and I prefer the local fruit. I don't often get a chance to film the women. They're shy and wary of my camera, mostly staying inside dark, smoky huts to cook. My days in Mareki go by at a pace that we in the West lost centuries ago. It takes a while, but eventually it stops being a little strange. It becomes normal. On a misty afternoon, I go off to find a peaceful place to sit. I realize that I'm not missing the 21st century. In this remote village in the interior of Espiritu Santo, there's no money, no modern medicine, and no one remembers ever seeing a missionary. This is the tribe of Mareki, one of the few bush communities in the South Pacific, nearly untouched by the modern world. I'm here because I want to learn and experience this ancient lifestyle. These traditions could disappear within a century. In the early morning, it gets cold in the highlands. To keep warm, I wrap myself in a blanket made from the bark of the malig tree. It's the same material many of the Bushmen wear as loins. The women wear leaves pulled from the nagaria plant. People here have different ways to make themselves beautiful. Some of the older women, like the chief's mother Feapu, wear bones in their noses. Others have tattoos on their faces. Men sometimes wear elaborate headgear made from plants. Many of the villagers are healthy, but the child mortality rate is high. The chief, Mosura, and his 3 wives have produced 17 children. Only 12 survive. At 58, Mosura fathered another baby this year. Some of his wives have been nursing constantly for 3 decades. The chief tells me the worst problem in the village is hurricanes. Bush villages are built in jungle clearings. They use the surrounding forest as protection from weather. The huts are flimsy by Western standards. Vines hold the bamboo walls and thatch roofs together. Thick tree branches make up the house's framework. Inside the hut, it's dark and smoky. The only light comes from small windows, doorways, and fires. Every day the people collect food from the jungle. They constantly hack away vines that strangle grapefruit and breadfruit trees. There's no shortage of food in Mareki. The surrounding jungle is a buffet of edible plants. When the people want meat, they turn to the animals they raise. Other options are gathering crabs from the river or sending the young men out to hunt for reptiles. In Mareki, women prepare all the food. They create community meals cooking with natural materials. Sometimes it's easiest to just throw breadfruit directly onto smoldering rocks. Something different is always happening in Mareki, but living with these simple people is more than just an immersion into an exotic traditional culture. For me, it's a powerful lesson in how so little can go so far. For the villagers to thrive and be happy, all they need is the jungle and the community. It's a special day in the highlands of Espirito Santo. Vera, a young bush hunter from the tribe of Mareki, is introducing me to his world. It's a rugged place full of wild creatures and ancient traditions. Few Westerners have ever been this far into the interior. I came to Vanuatu to document the culture of these remote bush people before the modern world affects it. I also want to experience it, and Vera has promised me a chance to hunt with the bow and arrow. After breakfast, we head south across the mountains to the Wailapa River. Vera hopes to run into his cousins from another village. Trekking the hunting trails in this jungle is difficult. Vera constantly has to clear the path with his bush knife. It's not long before Vera suddenly stops. He sees something in the trees. The camouflage creature is difficult to pick out, but I get ready to shoot anyway. Somehow I hit it.
Here's my reward for a good shot.
20 minutes later, Vera spots another one. He sprints off to get a clear shot, but he can't find one. He has to climb a tall tree to shoot. Once he's eye level with the reptile, it's an easy catch. Getting down, though, is more challenging. I don't worry too much. Bushmen are expert tree climbers. After a few hours of hunting, we hear a conch shell in the distance. It's Vera's cousins announcing they're in the area. We meet the cousins near a river. Long ago, the boys of Supamalo made a journey to the sea. They traded kava roots for snorkeling masks and spears. Now they can hunt for prawns and fish in the interior's rivers. The banana leaf container fills quickly. Even the 6-year-old is an expert at spearing these creatures. I also try it, with moderate success. Vera's cousins take me to a nearby hut to eat our catch for lunch. We cook the prawns in bamboo shoots. Lizards are put directly onto the coals. On the way back to Mareki, we pass by the taro garden. I've developed a rash on my left leg, and Vera's uncle, a medicine man named Radion, knows a special leaf that will help.
What is the plant called in Kia?
First he goes on a search for the plant. When he finds it, he takes the leaves and chews them. Afterwards, he mulches it in his hands, then applies it vigorously to my rash.
What does the custom medicine do? So it'll make it go away, or will it just make it stop itching?
Go away.
It'll make it go away. Thank you.
In the late afternoon, we get back to the village. It's been a day full of adventure and learning, but I'm exhausted. I hope the rest of my days in Mareki will be as full as today. There's excitement brewing in the highlands of Espiritu Santo today. Everyone in the tribe of Mareki is energized. These bush people are getting ready for age-old tradition, a custom dance. Outsiders rarely see it. This dance celebrates the ancient Vanuatu lifestyle that the Mareki people still embrace. It's been nearly a year since the last custom dance. Mulsura, the High Chief, knows I'm leaving tomorrow, and he won't let me go without seeing one. He wants me to know his tribe's favorite way of celebrating their culture. In the morning, the young girls sweep the dance site clean. All tribal events are held in the center of the village. The small hut where I sleep overlooks the area. Nearly everything in Mareki comes from the jungle. Stone axes and wooden bowls are still in use. The dance equipment is made from dried bamboo shoots and a thick wooden board. Before the dance, the villagers warm up with a song called Lelapa. It's time for the dance. At first, only the men perform. They bang their bamboo sticks and sing. After a few minutes, the women join and start circling the men. The custom dance is accompanied by a series of short songs that don't always relate to each other and don't always make sense. Much to my surprise, Feapu, the chief's mother, decides to join the dance. During my stay in Mareki, she's deliberately avoided my camera. But now she doesn't mind, and I make up for the lost opportunities. No one knows Vanuatu's age for sure, but the tribe thinks she's about 100. She's one of the last bushwomen in Vanuatu to wear a bone in her nose. She's so frail, I feel this might be her last dance. I feel lucky to see it. The dancers span 4 generations. Rushing wildly by Vanuatu are her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. The chief's wives carry babies and sing. A young girl tosses her 6-month-old sister into the air. The boys and men pound their bamboo sticks. A half hour later, it's over. Everyone leaves.
Wow, that was just a remarkable experience. That was just a remarkable experience. Remarkable.
I walk over to the chief and shake his hand. I'm grateful that he's welcomed me in Mareki.
Okay.
The next day I begin the tiresome 3-day journey home. My bush guides, Agmo and Jeffrey, escort me through the highlands to the sea. While walking, I can't stop thinking about Mareki and its uncomplicated way of life. I hope that somehow it will continue for many more generations. But I fear the modern world is about to find this very remote and very peaceful place.